This is what we do. World Cup, baby, riding and flying right now. What an incredible day of action. I could not wait to get on this set and start talking about the World Cup once again here, like we do every single day at 9:30 a.m. Eastern Time. I, of course, am David Goss here on First Touch 26 from the Kickback Studios live in New York City off one of the greatest 24 hours in sports history. And I am lucky enough to be joined by two of my homies, Michele Giannone and Matt Doyle, for this one. We do, in tribute, have our soccer.com Germany kit right here. You can go to soccer.com and make sure that you remember everything about the 2026 German national team. Pretty much just comes down to the nice mint green kits. And that's about it, as we will go over the respectful memoriam of the Dutch national team, of the German national team, and of the Japanese national team over the course of this show. And of course, we will look forward to a day again of 3 knockout matches of action. Ivory Coast gets us started against Norway, Mexico against Ecuador, and France against Sweden. So it is going to be a big day, and I believe the Ecuadorians will finally maybe go to sleep in about 24 hours after they're getting the full CONCACAF experience. And of course, this will continue us along the bracket as we go forward in this competition. Now, I like to start us with our 3 big things. You guys feeling good?
Yeah.
I haven't asked you to talk yet.
No.
I'm vibing. It took me like an hour and a half to fall asleep last night.
Did it?
After the Morocco
so
game.
you weren't asleep then until like 1:32 a.m.
It was the guys marching in Amsterdam, and then the whole watch party in Casablanca. They cut to Casablanca for the watch party, and I was like, that's cool. There's a big watch party in the U.S. And then they put the lower third up that said Casablanca, and I'm like looking at the clock. I mean, it started at 3 a.m. there.
Yeah.
That's sick.
I mean, that's pretty good.
That's
right?
where we should do the shows from. We should all move to Morocco. Fez, call us. Fez Tourism District. Call us and find us a little bit of a territory to hang out in, and we will be locked in Morocco. But no, I did not go to sleep until very late. And I was like a little bit tired coming out of the Germany-Paraguay experience because it was such an I still cannot comprehend watching the German national team not just lose, but lose in penalty kicks.
Yeah. First time in the World Cup, they've lost in penalty kicks. They looked so unconfident taking those penalties, which is not. It's just not the Germany that any of us grew up with, right? Like even when they played bad soccer, and yesterday they played 120 minutes of bad soccer, you get to penalties and they just put teams away. Like there was never any doubt. There's the old joke, World Cup games are simple. You play 120 minutes, nobody scores, and then Germany advances on penalties. That's the old joke. And that was nowhere to be found yesterday. And you saw it in the lead up to Jonathan Tah's moonshot, Carlos Rivas tribute. He didn't want to take that, but nobody else did on the team either.
Yeah.
It was. I never would have thought that that's the version of Germany we were getting.
Did you notice the shot of Kimmich?
Where Kimmich is asking for
yelling
it,
and asking who's going to take it. And some players were like looking at the ground. It was embarrassing if you're German.
But
a great day for the USMNT. We are vindicated with Paraguay. We finally saw the Paraguay and the specifically the Gustavo Alfaro's Paraguay from the qualifiers that in the last 12 games lost 1 time, 1-0 in Brazil, allowing just 8 goals in those 12 games. What the USMNT did to Paraguay was historically, at least to this team. Was I expecting Paraguay to win against Germany? No, I don't think anyone was expecting that. And unlike the USMNT, and I was having this conversation on Blue Sky, Germany did what the USMNT didn't do. They let Paraguay get comfortable at what they do.
Yeah.
The USMNT came out, hair on fire. We're going to take the game to you. We're going to score early. We're going to break you. And you're going to have to play, which they struggle with. But Germany let them sit back, control the tempo, control the pace. And Paraguay is, in my opinion, the just winner.
It's a national holiday in Paraguay. So everyone's actually at home watching it right now with us, which shout out to all of our people in Asuncion who like to hang out with us. Did I say it wrong?
Yes.
Say it.
Asunción.
I was close.
I thought you were pretty close.
There's no an H there. Asunción. No. It's Asunción.
It is the only country in South America that is legally bilingual because it's the only country that has a native language.
Guarani, right?
Yeah, as part of its actual constitution. It was a huge moment for Paraguay. So ESPN, if you want to go based off this, I wanted to find this, so this was the only place I could find it. People did brackets when you got to the 32. ESPN says 2.7% of brackets left are perfect after the first 3 games because basically no one had Paraguay beating Germany. Then you go into the fact that the Netherlands lose, and that maybe was controversial or split. Japan as well. I wanted to say my big thing before we move on, which is I called this. I didn't call it specifically, but we've done a lot of preview shows for the World Cup, and one of the things I was hoping for was that with the third place teams going through, teams would settle in a way in this round of 32 match we had never seen before. Because the World Cup is such an overwhelming experience, and the average player never goes to more than one. So when you often see debutant players and teams at World Cups, they're overwhelmed by the moment. They're down early. Now the second game becomes, well, we have to score by X goal differential at chase. And then they're out. And we've seen fairly often, Tunisia was a great example at the last World Cup. Then the third group stage game is the best game they play, but it doesn't matter anymore.
Because the pressure's off, yeah.
Turkey.
So now I think you see, now you see, and so what I thought was the opportunity for those teams to still be alive and save themselves and now get into a round of 32 match and then sort of understand what the press looks like and what the experience looks like and what the fields feel like. All of this is different for most players. There are the few Dutch national team, German national team players who are like, I do this every 4 years. I mean, I get eliminated every 4 years, but I do this every 4 years. Like, this is all pretty familiar for me. For someone coming from Club Libertad, for a Paraguayan team that hasn't been at the World Cup, hasn't played in environments like this before, everything is new. And so now, 2.5 weeks into this, 3 weeks into this, 4 games into it, I think you see a comfort level of the speed of play, the experience, everything you're going through, which I think helps those teams. And I think that's been one of the great differentiators for, we've talked about it a million times, the Blue Bloods, the Big Six, whatever you want to call it, that every single game like what we watched yesterday, they find a way to just tweak their way over. And Italy did it in 2006, and it was a travesty to the game, but it happened. And then Spain did it in 2010 when they figured things out, and then Germany did it in 2014. I mean, Algeria fans, and we've, I think, talked about it on the show, Algeria outplayed Germany in the round of 16 in the 2014 World Cup. It doesn't matter, because Germany had players who had been to 1 or 2 World Cups, and they found their ways and they found their moments and they just get over the line. And so while I still think we'll see a France and Spain in the World Cup final, I do think we saw a little bit of an opening yesterday of some of these teams have gotten some experience and can sort of play from a little bit more of a position of strength in this knockout game.
It's interesting. I'm not sure I buy it yet. I think
off one sample size?
Yeah, right?
Feels crazy.
The singular of data is anecdote. I think that maybe you're underselling the value of Copa America and the continental tournaments as a whole in terms of prepping teams for the World Cup, because what we've seen is that CONMEBOL is now officially kind of dominating this World Cup. I think they have some ridiculous winning streak against UEFA teams so far, and obviously Canada was a semifinalist in 2024 Copa America, and they're doing pretty well too. So I think that maybe familiarity with the environment and the types of stadiums you're in comparison to Europe is actually playing a bigger role than any sort of familiarity or I'm used to being in the World Cup now. I do have a lot of thoughts on the environment and the weather and the role it might have played in the second half of that Netherlands-Morocco game.
All right, let's dig into it. Let's start talking about it. I can't wait to talk about all 3 of these games. So let's start with Brazil versus Japan, which at the time when I put together the rundown yesterday was going to be the best game we were going to talk about. So that is why I made it our North American soccer segment presented by Soccer.com. If you've been watching the FIFA World Cup this summer, you've seen the Trianda Pro on the pitch across all 16 host cities. You can own the official match ball of the tournament via the highest standard match ball Adidas and FIFA produced today at Soccer.com. So Japan comes in. They were one of the darlings of the tournament, one of the big dark horse picks. We did our brackets yesterday. I don't remember. Did anyone pick Japan in that game? No. I do think Jordan Angeli picked Japan to go to like the final, and she recorded our NWSL show, which will be coming out in a little bit. And when she went in, Japan was up 1-0. When she came out, they had lost. So it's a tough one for her as we take a look at the full bracket right now. Brazil comes from behind. They score the latest regular time winner in recorded World Cup history, which goes back to 1966. Don't think they have the exact seconds from before that, but it was 95 plus 37 or whatever it was, to not then be, of course, an extra time when you go from 90 to 120. And it was Gabriel Martinelli off the bench. So I've talked a lot on Blue Sky about this game already. I want you to get us started. Thoughts on what happened.
Brazil still look limited with the ball in possession, and partially Japan deserves a lot of credit for that. Japan only came here to do one thing, which was defend and maybe hit on a counter. But Brazil had no ideas in terms of breaking them down, but they're really good at flooding numbers into the box when the game enters the tactics-free zone, which it did for the entire second half.
Yeah.
And then they're murder on the repress, which is how they got that winner. And it's not what we think of when we think of Brazil, right? We think of the beautiful game. This team does not play the beautiful game. They play like ruthlessly pragmatic, almost what you think of when you think of the old German teams. You know, Brazil and Germany have both tried to switch who they are, like trade identities. And I think both teams are worse off for it. But Brazil just beat a pretty good Japan team, and into the round of 16 they go.
And I think I'm still like beating a dead horse here, but every time I see this Brazil, this is the worst Brazil national team of all time. We can see the last couple of World Cups, because at least in the last World Cup
the
you had
2026 one.
This one.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's worse than the last two World Cups.
Yeah, because at least you had prime Neymar, and you had that light. You had that player that could change a game no matter what. Vinicius is not there yet. Or at least he doesn't play.
He's not the same type of
exactly.
player,
He doesn't play that role in the middle, dominate at midfield, create. Vinicius, at the end, he's a winger. So and he's depends of what other players do around him. You don't have the killer number 9. I mean, every time I see poor Cunha, I don't want to take anything away from it, but I mean, in Brazil, wearing number 9 and wearing number 10, it's heavy.
Well,
it's heavy
I mean,
stuff.
Fred has carried that jersey
And
to
you
a
have-
World Cup.
And also,
Just saying.
yeah, that's true. The midfield is an issue, and
The midfield to me is
when
the
I was
biggest
and I was
issue.
and I made this case with Croatia. You see Luka Modric, and he clearly is not at the level that the competition, or if Croatia wants to be a contender, he doesn't have the level. And and it hurts because he's one of my favorite players of all time. And you see it with Casemiro, right? You saw it on Japan's goal. He doesn't close out. He's slow at reacting. He fouled a couple of teammates 2 times. He was on a yellow. Yeah, he scored a tying goal and a set piece. That it doesn't have anything to do what his job and his role is on midfield. And doing the bracket, and I think I said this before, my trepidation with Brazil is when the competition gets tougher and you face teams that are better than you or that have similar quality all around, especially at midfield, they're gonna get trounced.
Yeah.
I don't think this Brazil moves on. And and it was like, okay, what do I do here? Because they have the individual.
Did you pick Japan?
No, I picked Brazil,
Okay,
but
okay.
I took
not that
Brazil.
far.
I took Brazil until semifinals,
Oh, yeah. I took them until the semi or the final.
semifinal or something.
So,
But then I watched the game yesterday, and my immediate reaction is I should have listened to my initial trepidation.
So
this
here's-
midfield doesn't hold up.
Yeah, and I think for me the big fear is when you look at this group, there are no other options. Like I was talking with friends during the game, and I'm like, I think your best bet if you want to try and get Casemiro out of there is to move Marquinhos to central midfield and bring Ibanez in, because there's really not another person.
And Marquinhos is in his 30s as well.
For sure. And there's not another person on that roster who plays in that position. Unless you want to play Neymar at the 10 and play, if Paqueta's even healthy, play him alongside Guimaraes and just open up and be hopeful.
And you gotta pray for Rafinha to come back.
This is a long-standing issue with player development in Brazil, and it goes back really to the Bosman ruling. But clubs in Brazil need to sell. They just absolutely need to sell. And the players who get sold for the most money in this day and age are wingers. So all of their best young players, by the time they're 12, are getting funneled to either play on the wing, or if they're bigger, they get funneled to center back because center backs. So they're not developing high level central midfielders like they used to. There's no Fernandinho.
And fullbacks.
Right?
Roberto Carlos, Cafu, Maicon, and what do you have now?
So it's a problem. It's a systemic problem in Brazilian soccer where the incentive structure has really changed, where they're not developing players for their own clubs. They're developing players for the European market. And I think that we're seeing that bill come due with this really static and kind of unimpressive Brazilian national team that could win the World Cup anyway, because absorbing and then hitting on the break with Vinny and Ryan, who was not good last night until he made the play defensively that won them the game. Like Carlo Ancelotti is fine doing that, and Brazilian fans would be fine doing that, though this team would never be beloved like 70 or 2002. It would be kind of a redheaded stepchild like 1994.
So first of all, Vinicius not being that special, you should tell Tomiyasu and Doan that, because they had a nightmare yesterday. Because when Vinicius is on,
it's not that he's not special.
I
It's that he's
understand.
special in it. See, this is what you do, and you think you're not a troll. You do this in every conversation, and you have the nerve to introduce me to people who be like, "Oh yeah, he's a human troll. He's a troll in human form." It's you. Look in the damn mirror.
Yeah.
wow,
You're
it's
in your
really
Knicks.
coming out now. Can I finish?
No, I want to hear what Michele has to say.
You can finish. Vinicius it's top 10 in the world. Easy. I would say at some days top 5.
Yeah.
But he doesn't play a position that makes a difference on this team. This team doesn't have a 10, a Neymar,
Not
a
like
Rivaldo,
not like
a Ronaldinho.
a systemic difference.
Exactly.
He doesn't he can win the moments, and he's really good at it, and that's what he does with Real Madrid. But he's not build the entire system around him.
And that's why at Real Madrid he also gets lost when the team around him doesn't function.
But isn't Lamine Yamal the same?
No.
Lamine Yamal, you think systemically controls the game?
I think Lamine Yamal is more.
I think he just plays on teams
role,
that have systems that are built.
I think in Spain he plays a more important role in the build-up and in the way the team plays. So my point was Ancelotti. So the plus side of picking Brazil in the semifinal, a final, is that you have a coach that is an expert of dealing with knockout stages, like he did at Real Madrid, and a coach that, not a great tactician, like Zidane, for example, but that can manage a group, right? Mm-hmm. So on this type of tournaments, like a Champions League knockout round, is important. I think the midfield still, it's when you put it in the balance, I think the midfield is so bad and Casemiro has been so bad that I don't think Ancelotti can do anything about it when you get to face now a Colombia, a France, a Spain, whatever. You know? So I think the ceiling is very limited. But again, if they end up winning it, it's like, oh yeah, sure, fine. It's Brazil.
Okay, so the fact that they're in that category means that some things are going right. The fact that they're capable of doing it. I was a little actually underwhelmed by some of the counter-pressing yesterday. But part of that was Japan had 30% possession in this game. And my takeaway from this is the whole conversation for 6 months from Japan has been, we want to take the next step. We're a program that should take the next step. We should be moving forward. We should be contending. 5 straight knockout games at a World Cup, 5 straight losses. And every single one, they sat in deep outside of maybe that Belgium game in 2018. Mm-hmm. They sat in deep. They defended for their lives as tight as you possibly can to your own goal. And every single time they lost. And they can tell me they're not good enough to do anything different, then stop talking about progressing the program. Because if that's the case, then that's fine. The reason Casemiro scores that goal is because his starting position is 20 yards from Japan's goal because he has no one to defend. If Ueda is sitting on the top of his box for 45 minutes, then at some point, every mistake becomes a chance for Brazil. And the crossing and the change of, I think Japan had faced 15 crosses the whole tournament. They faced 30 yesterday. It's not a cross if I'm sitting on the edge of the 18 curling a ball to someone's head. It's a pass because everything is so tight and everything is so deep. And they did this against the Netherlands for 45 plus minutes. Mm-hmm. And then when they went down, the Netherlands did it to them and they scored. Mm-hmm. And they were banging in crosses and everyone was yelling about how the Japanese players are short and they shouldn't cross and whatever. It's not a cross if it's an accurate moment, and you cannot defend that deep for an entire game. We'll talk about Paraguay in a minute, and that's obviously something a little bit different. If you want to be a contender on this stage, Japan has not won an Asian Cup since 2011, and they've never progressed in the knockout rounds of a World Cup. And you can talk to me about Matoma being injured and Endo being injured and all of that. Rafinha wasn't on the field. It's a World Cup. It comes once every 4 years. Not everyone is going to be healthy in the exact moment at the exact time. And when they are, like in the past, you should have taken advantage of those moments because you can't come back 4 years later and complain. If Canada had everyone healthy and fit, it would be a different tournament. If every team had if Musiala was perfectly healthy and had been in form, it'd be a different tournament. That's just the nature of these things. But for Japan to say, oh, well, we stuck in the game and woe is us, then stop talking about progressing and being the giants of Asia, because that's not a reality.
Okay. Now, I'm going to defend that for a second. What do you want them to do?
Play in the ball. Be brave.
When they played on the ball against the Dutch, they were really good in that second half.
Yes, but you're not... Okay.
It's your decision.
Not once in any of these 5 games has Japan looked as good as the U.S. did 4 years ago against the Dutch.
You just said it.
What?
They don't have the top-end talent.
They believe they do. They say they do.
You're in a knockout stage.
Actually, wait, no. Let me take that away.
Okay,
forget that.
Wait. You're in a knockout stage. You're 1-0 up against Brazil. It's human nature. I know I'm being simplistic, but it's human nature to play the way they did.
It's also human nature to lose if you try and defend in your own box for 60 minutes.
Yeah. But
so at some point, someone has to have a thought process to have a game plan. Human nature should not come into the fact that a national team...
It's Brazil.
You just talked about how bad Brazil was.
Yeah, but it's... Okay. But it's
listen, we're going to get to this conversation, hopefully, fingers crossed, in a week about the U.S. At some point, if you want to do something, you have to beat someone. You're not going to backwalk into a late knockout stage game. That's the reality of the World Cup.
Yeah.
And so Japan, they're telling us they're incapable of doing that. And what we have seen at this World Cup is if you show bravery, that there are more gaps in the game than you believe. There are more openings. And for example, Casemiro cannot turn. But you don't know that for the 60 minutes of the game because there's no one high enough up the field to even challenge him. And all of that is a decision. And if you lose that way, then you lose that way. But 5 World Cups in a row, if you lose the same way, that's the definition of insanity.
I agree with you. I'm just being devil's advocate in the sense of we're talking about Japan, right? They're not... Again, you have Brazil in front of you, right? If you give them we just said it to a player like Vinicius, if you give him space, he's gonna kill you, right?
You can play more soccer than Japan did yesterday.
I agree.
Without giving Vinicius
space. You can defend with the ball if you want to.
Their mistake is exactly what you said. They didn't realize. I mean, they saw it on the first half. If I'm the Japan coach, I mean, if we saw it from the TV, what Brazil midfield was doing and what Casemiro was doing, as a coach, you're seeing it right there. You just press that message at halftime. But also, I can understand them going into the second half and say, guys, 45 minutes till we die.
But here's the part.
It's human nature to do that. On the players. I put it on the coach.
But Hajime Moriyasu has been coach of this team for 6 years. It's on the program to develop.
Maybe that's the problem.
And that could be totally it. It's on the program to develop and move forward and create systems over the last 5 years that you can lean on. Is Morocco a world powerhouse?
I mean, they're getting there.
Yeah.
But at the last World Cup, they played against the ball, and they got through in penalties. And they spent the last 4 years, now there was a bit of an issue with it, and Regari gets fired, and they bring in a new coach, progressing. And they dominated possession yesterday against the Netherlands, and they won the game.
Yeah, but
Progress.
It's when you're playing the Netherlands, again, it's the Netherlands, right?
We can't do Brazil is bad, and then Brazil's too good.
I didn't say Brazil.
Against.
I didn't say Brazil was bad. I said Brazil has a problem, which is the midfield and Casemiro. Still Brazil, right? But when you play against the Netherlands, you don't take the same precautions. That when you play against Brazil, it's normal. It's normal. I'm not defending it. I'm just trying to find an explanation.
But Japan beat Brazil.
Yeah. And
6 months ago.
in the first half of this game, Japan was actually I thought, even though they only had like 42, 43 percent possession in the first half. Maybe it was even lower than that
32%
by the end of it. But I guess through the first water break, it was a little more even. They were controlling the game, and Richard Duan, he was getting up the pitch. He was he was causing Vinny to be dislocated from the rest of the Brazilian attack. They were playing, and they took the lead, and they stopped playing. They decided to become minnows. And honestly, I was having this conversation with a couple of friends. The U.S. 32 years ago, pre-MLS against Brazil in a knockout round game was more impressive than I thought Japan was yesterday. Japan had it in them to play more soccer than they did, and then they decided to just be against the ball and try to wait it out. And they did themselves a disservice again for the 5th World Cup in a row.
So I think at some point, if it keeps going in the same direction, you either accept that that's your reality and you move on, and Japan says, we're not a knockout team. We're never going to go further in a World Cup. That is not everything they have messaged externally. They have said, we believe we're ready to progress to the next level. If it doesn't work for 5 straight World Cups, maybe it's time to try something different. Maybe it's time to expand the game a little bit more, to try and play in more possession against some of the bigger teams and try and progress. And I do think the warning signs of this were there because I talked about over and over that Dutch, the 45 minutes, the way they sat in, the final 15 against Sweden as well. Alanga's goal comes because he's got space on the edge of the 18, and from that moment on, they sat in.
Yep.
And when they sit in, they sit too deep. And I understand people will say, oh, if we're a great defensive team and we're all in sync, I can defend my block anywhere, right? The belief of, I think, many players of, you give me 5 on a string, I can keep out anything. And that's what you practice. When you go into trainings, it's 7v5, it's 9v7, whatever it is. It makes every mistake a goal-scoring chance against you. It gives you 0 margin for error, and it also guarantees that the only game states left are you hanging on.
Yeah.
You are not going to score out of that game states. And I think it's very unfortunate that a team that a lot of us were excited to watch chose to play this way. And that's the part that's frustrating, is chose to play this way. Because for everything that Brazil is, you control what you control, and they've never stepped out.
Why are you expecting so much from Japan? You just said it. They haven't won anything in 15 years.
Yeah.
They haven't advanced now for the 5th straight World Cup. Why are you expecting so much?
Because they have labeled themselves the Giants of Asia, because everyone picked them as the dark horse of this tournament, and everyone has stated that they play some of the best soccer on the planet and that they are the emerging power. So, maybe the marketing is bad.
What have you seen
from
to
them?
buy that? Yeah.
I mean, they won a lot of friendlies. People over-index on friendlies. They were really good in friendlies.
Well, and also, you look at a lot of these players who have stepped into...
They got a badge FC team.
Big European clubs and have played really, really good soccer, right? Endo, Doan, these players, Tomiyasu, these players have stepped into big clubs.
Absolutely.
So
the individual talent is there, right?
So put it all together and put together...
Don't play like Panama. Panama played better soccer.
Right, so why are you getting fooled again?
So let me ask
years.
this, from top to bottom, on just pure talent and roster, from 1 through 26, is this group far off from Ecuador?
From Ecuador?
Yeah.
Yes.
Outside of Caicedo, Hincape, and Willian, is it really that far off, 1 through 26?
I think 1 through 3 Ecuador takes it. 1 through 26, Japan, I think, probably has more talent.
And you believe that Ecuador can go deep in this tournament? Well, not because of Mexico.
Well, not today,
exactly. But that's what I'm saying.
Let's see how I feel in 30 minutes.
And to my point, like, Morocco's the other example. And I know Morocco has some other things going on, right? A lot of these players born in Belgium, France, Spain, that changes the calculus a little bit. But they're investing money to push their program forward, and they are progressing as a program into a different way of being, and that's how you move into the powers. The example for everyone is Portugal, right? And while Portugal has not won a World Cup, they've won a European Championship. They went from, in 2002, they just don't go to tournaments. They just don't even qualify. Like, their entire history was Eusebio, and that was it. To, they are a power at every single conversation. They are a dark horse or a favorite in every tournament they go to. That's progression. It goes up a ladder. And Japan now is sitting at the same spot for 24 years. I would hope the investment they've made and the way they've pushed the program and the sport, that it would progress. And maybe I should be wrong. South Korea has not progressed either from that point of view, from a national team point of view. And I understand national teams, it's hard to judge I understand this as an American soccer person. It's hard to judge a soccer program on what just the national team's performance is. It's the way the ball falls once every few times. But at some point, the ball has to fall in your favor if you're doing something right. And now 5 straight tournaments, or their entire history.
And to be
has-
fair to
clearly you're not doing
Japan, right? Like it is making the round of 16 or now the round of 32 every 4 years. That is a case of you have raised the floor. You have at least done that. And we've seen 32 years ago, Saudi Arabia made the knockout round. They haven't progressed. Iran in 98, we saw them beat the U.S. They haven't progressed. The world is littered with programs that have taken 1 step forward and 2 steps back. And why people really like Japan is because, they make the knockout rounds every single World Cup, and they have all these players at clubs that we all use when we're playing FIFA. So it's easy to talk yourself into like, okay, the next step should come. But this is just a reminder: Portugal is an outlier.
Yeah.
These things, you need to have the floor and the infrastructure built out, but then you need to get lucky with a golden generation that just elevates everything, and then you have that assembly line of talent.
In 1994, Japan, Korea for the most part, Australia, the U.S., none of them had fully professional soccer leagues. All the other countries that we've talked about, Iran, that you mentioned, they did. Yeah. Nothing's really changed. Globalization has shifted, so there are more players, what we're seeing at this World Cup everywhere. So Japan has invested and made these strides. Australia finally qualified for a World Cup in 2006. They've, I think, progressed to an extent, although there's a conversation how far it's come. And I think there's debate inside that country whether it is. And I don't know that Japan has gone as far as I would have expected for the investment that they've made and the way they've pushed things. I'm being told we have to talk about
real
Germany.
Quick, and
so we're moving down the axis.
Real quick, 10 seconds. And you mentioned South Korea.
Yeah.
As a region, there's been a clear regression.
Yeah.
As a region, Asia has been the worst.
Yeah.
But it's a fact. They're the worst in the World Cup. So it's not just Japan.
Yeah, it's really fascinating because the money that's been invested in the Middle East specifically has not pushed through to the national teams at all. And yet the teams that are good from the region are the ones that are from countries where they don't spend the huge money. There obviously is a bigger population base to work off of. Let's talk about, I don't know, I said to someone who was in the stadium, the biggest upset in World Cup history, and maybe that's completely wrong. I didn't go back through every single game, and I wouldn't count group stage games in that, like Saudi Arabia beating Argentina in the last tournament, because it doesn't end a team's tournament, so the pressure is not the same. But Paraguay knocks off, they knock off Germany in penalty kicks. It is tied, I believe, for the biggest gap in FIFA World Rankings between two teams. Sorry, it's the 4th largest gap. The biggest since 1994, and then Spain-Russia in 2018 was a larger gap. So Paraguay, they lose 4-1 in the opener. They hang on to that 1-0 win, down a man for over 45 minutes in the second game. And you talked about how bad Germany had looked throughout the tournament as we came into this. And while I didn't disagree with you, I couldn't see past how bad Paraguay had looked in this tournament. And clearly, one found their feet and elevated their performance, and the other, as Nagelsmann searched for a little bit of a change, couldn't find their feet.
They had 4 attackers out there who wanted to occupy the same spaces and do the same things in terms of getting the ball to feet. And nobody was ever... After the U.S. game, Alfaro spoke kind of glowingly of the U.S. movement in attack, saying that the U.S. is making all these really hard to track runs into the depth to pull a pretty well-drilled back 4 apart. Our buddy Connor was telling me about how amateur Paraguay looked because they couldn't track anybody out of central midfield. And I was like, okay. I thought that maybe the U.S. was really, really good. And Germany was doing none of that. Germany was so static and so selfish with their movement, and it looked like they just thought they were going to be able to break Paraguay down with 1v1 skill, and we had a lot of data over the course of CONMEBOL qualifying that you need to be a lot better than that to threaten Paraguay consistently. And then the other aspect of this was set pieces. And I was worried that this would end up being the set piece World Cup because we saw what happened with Minnesota United here 2 years ago and then the Premier League last year because, MLS makes, the world takes. But what we've seen instead is a sort of backlash in the officiating, preventing meat walls. Giving the goalkeeper room to come out and claim or blowing the whistle if he's even slightly hindered, which I think was
soft.
Yeah, it was a soft call.
Yeah.
But I didn't hate it.
The slight extension of the arm, I think, is what makes it callable.
He definitely,
Yeah.
He puts
His
hand
positioning, I think, is okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
He's
Broby
putting his hands on the
got called for a foul in the Morocco game that drove me absolutely insane, where he jumped vertically, didn't move at all, and it's a foul because Bono's going up for it. I understand protecting goalkeepers when they jump and not being able to go into their lower body because they should have landing space. Bruce Bowen's not walking through that door. But there has to be an ability to challenge on 50-50s. That wasn't the case in this one. I was surprised that it wasn't called live and that it was clear and obvious to bring back, but it's not the worst call I've ever seen. And for Germany, I think most German fans have said, that shouldn't decide your World Cup. You should be good enough to be able to create chances. They went with Undav from the start. Musiala gets dropped. It wasn't the clear solution for them. They go down 1-0. I believe Paraguay had 31 passes in the attacking half in the first half, and they go up 1-0 in that game. Kai Havertz gets the knock-on goal. But this is a German team that was out of ideas from the start of the World Cup. We saw it against Ivory Coast. We saw it again against Ecuador. And then you see it in this game. And for Paraguay, what's incredible, the performance, unreal, but it was straightforward. It was win the balls in front of you. It wasn't a lot of decision-making. There wasn't a lot of give and goes. There wasn't a lot of moments where it was, I don't know who to go with. I don't know where to be. It was direct balls into them. And if you win your battle, you just keep going.
Two things. One, Nagelsmann, after the game, talking to the German press, said, it's a disgrace, cold, whatever. Obviously, he was criticizing the goal on the field and the disallowed goal, but at the end, then he switched the discourse and he said, at the end, it doesn't matter. We shouldn't be losing to Paraguay. Yeah. It's embarrassing. Now, Nagelsmann, he did what we wanted him to do.
He changed
which was put Undav, throw Havertz on the wing, someone like Havertz as a 10 pick.
Because Leroy Sané has to play.
But don't sit Musiala, sit Sané.
Yeah.
Sané has been not terrible, but he hasn't been up to what he's capable of during the World Cup. Leaving Musiala on the bench, especially when you're going to face these type of teams that are going to sit back and with the park boss the whole game. And this is when I go back to the England discourse, right? Mm-hmm. And we've seen from England throughout the World Cup, they don't have that Cole Palmer, that Phil Foden, that in this case that Musiala that can break through that, right? So I was baffled by that, and I was texting with a friend that was at the game at the stadium.
Was it Roque Santa Cruz?
No,
that was legendary.
That was awesome.
Yeah,
it was
so
when
cool.
all the players came to, and he was telling me, if you think Germany's slow on TV, they look even worse in person.
I believe it.
Yeah.
Everything was sideways, backwards. Nobody was making a run. Everybody was looking at each other. No ideas. Flat. It was pretty disappointing.
It's mind-boggling to me that, even more so than
boggles your mind?
It boggles my mind, even more so than how bad Germany were and how timid they were in their penalties, how bad they are off the ball.
They don't move. They don't move.
That was Germany's. That's what defined Germany for generations, was how relentless and unselfish and collective they were off the
Their
ball.
problem was finding the selfish guy. Like Lucas Podolski was such a big deal because he was selfish and it was a change of pace from everyone else.
And now, look, Florian Wirtz, fantastic play. even Sane, who we've all been bagging on, but like, Sane would start for the U.S. national team,
Yeah.
very
course.
clearly, very easily. But all of these guys end up doing the same thing, and it makes each of them lesser. And then it makes the collective much less than the sum of their parts. And then it also confuses everybody out there because they don't know what their actual role is. Because you put them in a good club situation, and when Musiala's on the ball, he has runners to choose from. He has Kane to combo off of and then take that. And it didn't. He does not have that chemistry with Kai Havertz, and he certainly doesn't have that chemistry with Sané and Wirtz.
I want to talk about the history of because the thing I still can't comprehend is Germany losing in a penalty kick shootout in a World Cup. But before we do that, we should talk about Paraguay. I said it's a national holiday for this team. Jose Canale, who scores the winning penalty, he gets the start because Alderete is injured for this game, who is supposed to be one of the stars of this team because the back line and the defense. We've talked about this team for 4 months coming in on the U.S. side of things. Canale plays 120 minutes, scores the penalty. He hadn't played 120 minutes for Paraguay in his entire life going into this game. He's 29 years old at Lanús. He couldn't get a professional contract in Paraguay until he was 25, and then he goes to Argentina and is able to find a deal. Same as well with Orlando Heel. This is a team of, and Alfare said they were built in academies. We were built in the red dirt. First of all, you're Argentine, so relax. Second of all, it's a nice little piece. But this is a Paraguay team, program, whatever you want to call it, that, outside of a couple of years with Tata Martino, which, again, that 2011 Copa America run, it's all PKs. They never scored a goal in the entire run until the final to lose to Uruguay. This is a team that is used to losing big games. They've struggled to stay connected to most of the countries around them and the talent that's around them. And it's a population thing. It's a money thing, all of that. This is the greatest moment in their soccer history, and it was really cool to see.
Yeah, well, when you think about Paraguay, I go to France 98 with Chilavert on goal and with Gamarra, with players like with Roque Santa Cruz, a young Roque Santa Cruz. They lost to France in the round of 16 by a golden goal. So I think that's big Paraguay. I don't think this team still... I mean, beating Germany, yes, but as quality, as the way things happen, Paraguay was a really good team on that World Cup and on those qualifiers, etc. This is what Gustavo Alfaro does. I sat down with him before Copa America. This is what he did with Costa Rica in Copa America. This is what he did this is what he has done through his entire career. He doesn't give a F about the way you're going to perceive him, the way you want his teams to play. He's going to keep his philosophy. And on this Paraguay, and I remember I told you this story, I think, on the last MLS match day, I had Orlando, Cincinnati, and I spoke with Brian Ojeda. And I asked him who came into this game, and I asked him what. Tell me something about Alfaro, and he told me he's a coach that just want to run through every wall, and when you go out on the field, you think you're gonna beat everyone. You saw it today against Germany. So it sounds like a cliche, but again, when we talk about Ancelotti, Zidane, they're not tacticians, but they manage groups. They take out the best. Every ounce that a player can give you, they take out the best. And this is Alfaro. And again, my biggest takeaway from Germany and from the choices that Nagelsmann made, especially after you saw Paraguay after the USMNT game, when they with 10 men struggle and you know the way they play, and they got the 3 points again with 10 men again in the second game. Then the way they play against Australia. And if you go back to see this team in qualifiers under Alfaro, what were you expecting?
Yeah.
Why are you not prepared to take on that?
Yeah.
You have 15 games of the same thing, back to back. And that was what I was so baffled about what Nagelsmann did and how Germany played. They look like they haven't seen a second of video of anything about this Paraguay.
And the other piece that I think I could say backfired on him. Again, all of this probably doesn't matter. Is he played the starters against Ecuador because he felt they needed more cohesion. And then you go into this game and Nick Voltamata comes off the bench. I forgot he was alive. And right, he hasn't played soccer in 2 weeks. And I think that and it's all hindsight's 2020 stuff, but maybe in the end that's hurt him more. Or try something new, right? In the last game, rather than saying, I'm going to play the starters so they get cohesion, what's your plan B? And try that there.
Right.
And to your point, as you look forward into knockouts, whether it was going to be Paraguay or not, or Australia or whoever, you're probably going to have more possession in the round of 32. You're probably going to need to make the game. So Ecuador was going to give you that. Why not practice that there? And so it feels like for one of the million reasons he's going to get bagged on, that's it. But I thought Mikel Almiron was bad in the group stage besides the red card. I thought he was fantastic yesterday. He drew fouls when he needed to. He was engaged defensively. You talked about Enciso, and we've talked about Enciso all year going into this World Cup, and he hadn't played at a super high level with his club, and it was kind of like a we're still waiting thing. He was locked in. He was connected. I thought as well, Mauricio coming off the bench in for him was phenomenal in I'm going to find my moments to just open up play for us, let everyone breathe, whether it's drawing fouls or not. I thought it was just a really impressive performance from top to bottom.
It was a collective defensive performance. They did all the stuff that Japan was trying to do, except they were able to bring their line up a little bit, not defend in Gil's lap. And I don't want to say make it easy because it's never easy at this point in the World Cup, but they didn't feel stressed throughout all of it. They felt really comfortable with what they're doing, and it's a huge moment. As Dave said, it's probably the biggest moment in the history of the sport in Paraguay.
You've talked about this a little bit already, and I just check me on this because I might be wrong. The Spain part I'm not sure on. So Italy wins the World Cup in 2006. Spain wins the World Cup in 2010. Germany wins the World Cup in 2014.
Collectively, 0 knockout round wins.
Okay, yeah.
Well, we
Since
haven't
then.
had the chance.
It's absolutely incredible.
I mean, you can think about it. Italy are unbeaten in the knockout round since 2002.
Them and Northeastern football are having great years.
We retired at the top.
It is, and that's where you come back around to the Germany PK thing. I mean, this followed the script that we've seen for 94 years, 96 years. The bigger team struggles. They get to either a late stoppage time, a set piece, or a penalty kick, and then they come through. And the fact that Paraguay had the 4th and 5th shot to win it and missed, and this is it.
I thought they were done.
This is the story.
Yeah.
Somehow Germany survives. And like I said with Algeria, in 4 years, when you're the underdog person, you're like, oh, well, we played well. They'll never remember because it doesn't matter to them. And yet they end up losing. And we talked about Joshua Kimmich. You can see it. And it's not going into the 5th shot. I believe it's going into the 4th or 3rd shot where he, as captain on the field, turns to the line and says, who will shoot 6th if we get there? And no one really looks at him, and no one's really engaging with him. It ends up being Jonathan Todd's his first penalty kick, I believe, in any professional setting. He never gets his shoulders over the ball. He skies this thing. It doesn't look like a shot in any way. And then Paraguay is able to come back and steady themselves. Germany has missed 4 penalties in the World Cup since 1982. And 3 of them happened yesterday. What are we? That's 44 years. This is so unprecedented. I still can't comprehend it.
It is, and I think maybe we're headed for another version of DOS reboot to try to figure out what's going wrong.
So they handle technology like I do. Just unplug it, restart it, and hope it works every little while.
Blow on the cartridge, maybe? Yeah. I don't know. I mean, that's more of a Gen X thing. But no, I mean, their players are coming off an assembly line, and they're all kind of like the same guy.
Yeah. Now, part of it is injuries.
Part of it is
Goats
injuries.
are never peaked.
And I will say, Undov is a different kind of guy.
Yeah.
Undov
was the one who wasn't in the system.
Right. Really, really impressive player. The only silver lining for Germany out of this World Cup is how good he was. But he's already 29.
Yeah.
And this Kimmich, Goretzka, Rudiger, Sané generation, I don't think we're going to see. We'll probably see Kimmich again, but the rest of them.
For sure.
Okay, let's move on because it didn't end. We thought this would be the peak of the day. Absolutely. And then we get what may be one of the most dramatic games we see at the World Cup as the 3rd game. of the day. Morocco against the Netherlands down in Monterrey. I think you could sense from the crowd that they remember 2014. I think the Mexico fans were very clearly on Morocco's side in the No Era Penal derby here. And Morocco goes up against a Dutch team where I think if you were due to the infinity stones for them that they have to overcome, Spain and Portugal at the last World Cup, probably Netherlands and Belgium are the ones left of. The majority of their players that are dual nationals come from these countries. That's their connection. And they were the better team from start to finish.
Can you just give me the Fell For It Again award for praising Ronald Koeman on this show yesterday for what I thought was really good
I don't
work?
have a Dutch kid to put out for
That was
you.
a bad moment. Bad moment.
It was, it was a Ronald Koeman-esque performance and the way they sat. But this goes back to the Japan conversation. There is at some point bravery. And the Netherlands never showed it. They were incapable of showing it. And as the game wore along, we started to see a little of what we talked about, which is heat, travel, and altitude. And they were not able to get into a second gear. But one of the things that blows my mind is a Morocco group that went to a semifinal last World Cup. It is almost completely different. And not only is it completely different, these guys are 20, 21, 22. Like, for starters, strap in, because this group's going nowhere. You had Riyad start at center back at 23 years old. Ayub Buadi, who we have already done on our Football Manager level up, looked like he was playing in a preseason friendly half the time. He lets the ball run behind his legs as he resets. He tries to cut passes against his hips. It doesn't work. He rolls it under his foot. He turns around. He restarts play. He started alongside Ayuni, who's 24 years old. Unani, who was the young darling of the last World Cup.
Awesome. And he's even better now. Missed his penalty, but he's amazing.
And he's still only 26 years old. He led the game in touches.
Yep.
The three midfielders from Morocco all led the game in touches. De Jong and Gravenbach weren't even in the category as you get to the end. El Kounis on the left is 22. Brahim Diaz, who's been around for a little bit, is just 26. And Saibari, who might be the best center forward at this World Cup, is 25. But don't worry. The entire bench is 20 freaking years old. Talbot, who had the assist, is 21. Yassine, who scores his penalty kick, is 20. This team is absolutely insane. It's going nowhere. They're progressing with the investment they've done on domestic players being developed through the Moroccan system. And I think part of, and this is a conversation we've had around the Curaçaos of the world and the Cape Verdes, is also winning attracts future recruits. And that's a situation where Talbi declares for Morocco instead of Belgium as a 20-year-old because that's the program he wants to be a part of because it's where his heart lies. It's an opportunity. And he knows he'll have a shot to go deep in a World Cup.
Noah Kai Banks, are you listening?
And Buari, France over Morocco over France.
Yep. It's absolutely incredible. They were so good in this game.
Are you telling me that Buari is not better than Rabiot? Come on.
Yes! I'm so hyped.
Rabiot is one of the most overrated players in the history.
That's Deschamps' pet, though. He's got to keep him in the windows, laying in the sun like a cat.
What Koeman did yesterday was embarrassing. Yeah. I think and I'm so happy. Finally, Zlatan said something interesting on one of on the studio show. Zlatan and Henry were on his behind since the beginning, because of the choices he made. And we spoke about this, and that's where you were. And I was agreeing with you, except on the pick. Yeah. I still believe more in Morocco. And Eric was challenging me on Sunday. Oh, we haven't seen offense, a fluidity on offense in Morocco. And I said, I believe that this Morocco is more similar to the first half that we saw against Brazil than what we've seen in the rest of the games. And last night proved me right. But again, and we go back to Nagelsmann, and we go back to, in the case, on the positive side, on Alfaro, on Paraguay. Koeman didn't trust his team yesterday.
Nope.
Now, they played incredible soccer the last two games of the group stage. And then he changed everything.
Complete cowardice. And so let's talk through just the change that we saw from the Dutch. They played a 4-3-3 in the entire group stage that morphed into that sort of 3-2-4-1 attacking shape that everybody tries to get to. And the way they did that was by
proteining up in the middle of this.
He's ready to go, man.
I need. We just getting
you
started.
gotta hang at altitude.
By dropping Frankie de Jong out of central midfield, but not to split the center backs, but actually to drop him to left center back. So he was receiving the ball deep on the back line, and then he's one of the best ball progressors in the world in terms of ball carrying. And that gave a sort of dynamism as Michele destroys everything on the shelf behind us. Really well done. That gave them a sort of dynamism back to front that we hadn't actually seen much from this Dutch team over the entire course of this cycle. And it's why I was so amped on them. I thought they looked so good. And instead of just sticking with that, he brought in another center back. They started 4 true center backs in this game in a back 5, only put De Jong and Gravenberch in central midfield, dropped another central midfield. So it was like a 5-2-3 with Gakpo and Somerville playing tight. So they're getting, when they even do get the ball, they're getting the ball in worse spaces for them because both these guys attack better outside in, and all of it played directly into Morocco's hands.
And I think the idea from Koeman was to try and neutralize Hakimi.
Yeah.
Which, one, just didn't happen, which is insane. And 2, because those wide attackers were inside, it allowed him and Mazzari to push. And Mazzari likes to come inside, and he played basically as a third center back, defensive midfielder.
Do you mean Mazraoui?
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah.
I got lost.
Yeah.
He very much came inside and was like, all right, I'll play, I'll distribute, because El Khanous gets space outside.
Right.
So your tactics, you killed your own game plan to neutralize their attacking fullback. Then he had an even better game because you opened up the ability for him to no longer defend. And on top of all of that, you gave up central midfield.
Yep.
So you could never get out of your half. You could never play. You could never get into the game. Morocco had
let me read you a quote from Ronald Koeman this morning to the Dutch press. We chose to play this way because we conceded too much in the 3 matches of the group stage. The whole of the Netherlands has said we should play with 5 men at the back. So we do that, and I get criticism for
It's your fault.
Well,
it's your fault.
I don't give a damn. If I could do it over again, I would do exactly the same. Those are the words. So again, Felford again award right here. I screwed up badly on this show yesterday, but those are the words of a man who should never be a head coach again, period.
Let me give you the stats for Morocco. 70% possession. It is the highest by an African team in FIFA World Cup knockout match on record. So since 1966, without a red card in a game. After their penalty shootout victory over the Netherlands, Morocco have now progressed from 3 knockout round ties at the FIFA World Cup, as many as all other African nations in the history of the competition combined. So in 4 years, Morocco has done what all of CAF had done. Now, part of that was the lack of qualifying spots, which we are clearly seeing now was a huge issue for a long time. In 30 minutes of extra time, the Netherlands had 17% possession.
Yeah.
Morocco bossed the game from front to back, outside of everyone hiding ketchup packets in their shirts so that we had to pause 15 times for blood that I have never seen before. So watch out for your eyebrows. They were in cruise control. I put it out on Blues. Talbi in the extra time, everyone was like, we'll knock it around. And Talbi's like, oh, we're not going for it? I'll just, every time I touch the ball, I'm head down going for it.
The point I want to make about all this, the Dutch were bad, Morocco were good. Morocco deserved to advance no matter what the outside circumstances were here. But I do think this is the first game where we saw weather really take a toll on one of the European teams. It was 90 degrees with, I think, 65, 70% humidity in Monterey, which, as you pointed out yesterday, is above sea level. Certainly above
the Netherlands.
It's above the Netherlands, about 1,200 feet, which isn't terrible, but it's also just a little bit uncomfortable. And the Netherlands just, they clearly ran out of gas in that second half, like right out the gates. And that only amplified the terrible decisions that Koeman had made and the excellent play of Morocco.
Best case scenario for Canada, that this game just went as deep as possible in as worst conditions as possible. They will face Morocco on July 4th. Fascinating. Yassine Bounou, born in Montreal. A little bit of a connection. And then, of course, these two teams played in the group stage at the last World Cup. So 7 players carrying over for Canada from that group stage game. Not 7 starters, 7 that played. There's a lot of other changes in the lineup. Junior Hollett started that game and Steven Vittoria. So we're in a different world now. But I know Jesse Marsh was on site for the game. He had said that he would be down there and then he would meet the team. I believe in Dallas is where the next game is going to be played for those two sides, which of course will be inside, and the Dutch are going home. I cannot wait to talk about that game as we get ready for it. Last little piece on this one. The 4 penalties that missed the goal in this game. First time ever in a World Cup that 4 penalties in a shootout missed the entire frame. I think people are now asking.
Michele, are you a natural run-up guy or are you stutter-step guy when you take penalties?
No, runner-up.
You're not Simone Zaza?
No. Oh my God.
Oh, that's such a great moment.
And by the way, I never missed a PK on my college career. And I was
ice in his veins.
I was captain and PK taker.
Okay, we're going to dig into today's game, but before we get there, we are going to take an early look real quick at the matchup coming up for the U.S. against Bosnia and Herzegovina. So this is time for our First Touch Tactics Board presented by Football Manager 26.
Bosnia and Herzegovina set up in a 4-4-2, and the first thing to know is their attack is built around physicality, not penetration. 2 big strikers, but neither's attacking behind your defensive line. They're looking for flick-ons, knockdowns, and hoping to release a winger. When they do get higher up the pitch, the ideas dry up pretty quickly. Expect wide overloads and crosses because that's the ceiling of their buildup. Defensively, they're a 4-4-2 mid-block that compresses into a 5-3-2 as you push them back. So expect that back line to grow if the U.S. are on the front foot controlling possession. But here's where they're exposed. They can't track late runners from central midfield. Johan Manzabi tore them apart doing exactly that, arriving late in between the lines off the shoulder of that dropping midfielder. Weston McKennie moves in the same patterns. Get him running at that back 5, and you've got your in. For the U.S., this is a game where the middle of the pitch is the unlock, just as it was against Paraguay. Bosnia's block invites you to probe centrally, but the real damage gets done out wide. Runners from deep, third-man combinations, and the discipline to resist the cross when the better option is one more pass inside. Get the midfield runners going, and Bosnia are in real trouble. The opportunity's there. It's just about taking it.
Huge match coming up for the U.S. I think what we learned yesterday is nothing straightforward at this point of a tournament like this. Doyle, you broke it down a little bit. It will be similar game states, but in a different style than what the U.S. has seen against Australia and Turkey. And as you stated, Weston McKennie is going to be crucial to this game.
Yeah, all the stuff that we were talking about with the lack of movement from Germany and how static it was. And I think Netherlands was kind of the same thing as well. That's what Weston McKennie has alleviated for the U.S. His movement without the ball has caused every team that the U.S. has played so many problems. And if the U.S. are able to get on the ball deeper in midfield, which I think they will because of how Bosnia and Herzegovina plays, they're going to have, like, based upon especially what we saw from Bosnia against Switzerland, I think they're going to have so much trouble tracking McKennie, and that's going to open up pockets of space. And at that point, it's just, can you execute?
Yeah. Okay. This is going to be one of the biggest games in U.S. soccer history. We will be on tomorrow. We're actually going to have Tommy Scoops join us from California, where he is still somehow surviving even without the energy of New Jersey.
He sleeps in a hyperbaric chamber now.
Right,
I don't know if you saw that.
He's a high-performance athlete. He's going to join us to help us preview the game, and then we 3 of us will be here live post-game. So whichever way it goes, it could be one of the worst days in U.S. soccer history. We will be here, and we will commiserate with you, and we'll be around it and talk about what went wrong. Or it could be a great day in U.S. soccer history, and we will be here to celebrate it, enjoy it, break it down. And, of course, we're here live every single day at 9:30 a.m. Eastern Time. So then we'll be back on Thursday to talk about it again, and Friday, and going through the weekend as the 3 host countries look to continue on. And we will see Mexico on the field later tonight. So we've got Ivory Coast, Norway to start the day, 1 p.m. Eastern Time. A delicious dark horse versus dark horse tournament that I am really, really excited about. Then France takes on Sweden right here in New Jersey. Mbappe and Dembele have kept their penthouse apartments that they stayed in from the group stage. They will pop back to New York to see if they can put a little sprinkle on Sweden. And then Mexico hosts Ecuador in Mexico City at the Azteca in the round of 32. Let's start with Ivory Coast versus Norway. It's an Ivory Coast team that's chopped and changed a little bit. Feels like tactical changes for their opponent. And a Norway team that obviously completely recycled their group for the final group stage game. They lost to France. That put them in this matchup. And this is going to be, I think, one of the tightest matchups we see.
Should be fun. I picked Ivory Coast to advance. I think Ivory Coast has been the most impressive African team as of yet. My only interpretation is which Norway are we going to see? Because, like you said, they sat down everyone against France, Nagelsmann, or even France. Yeah, we're going to play everyone. I think Mbappe played like 85 minutes or something like that. That was ridiculous. Yeah. So anyway,
got to get the golden boot.
He was trying to help my golden boot team.
His entire economy is built on the golden boot once every 4 years.
So I'm playing a World Cup fantasy thing with people at work. Captain Dembele.
Nice.
I was expecting like, oh my God, he's not going to play. I didn't change my squad on time. Thank you.
Genius.
So,
yeah,
I think on talent, and specifically on matchups, Ivory Coast should win this game.
Yeah,
go ahead.
My hope would be they've learned from the Germany game. I think in the Germany game, they were the better team for 65 minutes.
Yeah.
Not only did they not put their chances away, I think they ceded the game a little bit more than they had to. I think they felt at some point like, okay, it's like Germany's turn, and I think there's a chance to dominate more possession. Because Norway, they can't control the game. Everything they're going to do is going to be reactive. The issue is they have the best finisher in those moments on the planet.
Yeah, so Norway basically, I don't want to be exaggerated here, but you can see it's Haaland plus 10 against a team that is going to bring a lot of offense. I expect Diomande obviously to have a good game. Diallo, my issue with Norway is that they're slow, and Sorloth and Nusa give you nothing on to try to defend. But at the same time, they could take advantage of the space that Ivory Coast is going to give you, right? And you have freaking Terminator up top on Haaland. But I don't think the Norway midfield it's physically enough to hold up Ivory Coast, and that's why they're going to get overwhelmed. And I'm fully confident in Ivory Coast.
Yeah, whichever Norway shows up, to bring it back to what you were saying, it's going to be one that is, I think, a little bit weak defensively and can be got at by this Ivory Coast attack. The question I have about Ivory Coast is, okay, is it the 4-2-3-1 with Pepe underneath Bonnie? Is that probably what we're going to see? Because it worked very well in the final group stage game. But we've seen them sort of chop and change a little bit what the 11 looks like and even what the system looks like within that 11.
Yeah, they've gone 5 at the back. They've gone 4 at the back. They've changed the way the attack looks like. They've gone with 2 wide players. They've had Pepe play a little bit closer. I thought Bonnie has been really good, deserves to start. Pepe's looked phenomenal.
So what I liked about the 4-2-3-1 was it actually kept Diomande wide, and he brings so much attention out to him that suddenly Bonnie and Pepe had so much room to combine and go at even numbers 2v2.
And reminder, Ryerson went out in the Senegal game. He's out for the World Cup, so the assumption is that Arsenes will get the start. Plays at Benfica, experienced player, so probably not the weakest spot along this back line, which is the biggest question mark, or one of the biggest question marks for Norway, but he's not a Dortmund starter who has been in some of these big games against a Jan Diomande over the course of the last 18 months. Diomande, we talked about it yesterday. The reports are $130 million buy coming.
Believes in the project.
But he has exploded onto the scene. He's been phenomenal. I think Ahmad's been good as well. I think most of this Ivory Coast attack has been really, really efficient, and it's going to fall on their midfield. Can you control the game? Can you not make mistakes in big moments to allow transition moments? And I think the other piece we've talked about and probably won't change is, can Oscar Bob get a start over Sorloth?
I would be so much more confident in Norway's ability to win this game if Oscar Bob was starting over Sorloth.
Yeah.
Sorloth's a really good player, but he's a super sub. Like he does not make Haaland better, and if you're not making Haaland better, then you're not making this Norway team
he's
better.
a center forward playing out on the wing, and Bob is a true winger who will hit in transition and get crosses to the best player on the planet you can cross to. And Erling Haaland, I think for him, this sort of a legacy game. Getting out of the group stage, they talked about it. It was the biggest moment in Norwegian soccer history, a country that doesn't have a ton of history at the national team level. If they're able to get a victory here, it would be massive. And also, we are pushing into some interesting space of UEFA teams just struggling. And we are starting to line up some brackets where if some of these games break over the next day or two one way, there might just not be a UEFA team to get through. So I believe Norway's in the same bracket as England. Those are the only two teams left in that bracket that are UEFA. And then obviously we saw, oh, look, we've got a bracket up. So that's like kind of perfectly timed for me. We saw, of course, so Norway would face off, the winner of Norway Ivory Coast will face off against Brazil in the round of 16. And then Mexico, Ecuador will face the winner of England, DR Congo in this quadrant. As you look at it, of course, Germany falling brings Paraguay into a matchup against the winner of France, Sweden. So that will be a UEFA team. But with the Netherlands falling, you have a guaranteed non-UEFA team out of Canada, Morocco, which will also be a historic run for either CONCACAF or Africa, one of the two. So this is, as I think we expected, with the travel, the size, the changes, it is going to be a weird and wacky tournament. South Korea, Japan that was my comp coming into this of like unknown across two regions, heat and all of that. And I think it's falling that way. Let's go into the second game of the day, France, Sweden. I am wearing my Sweden shirt. Why? Because if I don't wear it today, I'm not going to get a chance to wear it. As good as I felt about Germany beating Paraguay, because Paraguay is terrible, I feel even better about France beating Sweden. I think Sweden might be the worst team left in this tournament, and I think France might be the best team left in this tournament, unless you can convince me otherwise.
No, I think France is the most talented team left in this tournament. We have not seen them look like a true collective yet, other than maybe the second half versus Senegal when they were kind of amazing. But they can beat you. They can certainly beat Sweden with just individual talent and a good defense. What I'm hoping for from France is to start seeing them get into more of a rhythm, use a little bit more change of pace, drop their line back to maybe pull the defense up a little bit, because what we've seen a ton of from them is them just standing on the ball in the attacking third, which isn't a bad plan when you're up 2 goals and you have just overwhelming talent at every spot, but it hasn't been as dynamic. But I'm picking nits here. I think at this point, they're probably the favorites to win this tournament, and I don't think Sweden has any chance. I think Sweden's, the gap that we always see between their back line and their central midfield is kind of insane. It doesn't look like they're clear on what their responsibilities are. And if you do that against Michael Olise or Barcola coming inside, or
if you can't track Brian Broby, you probably can't track Kylian Mbappe, Dembele, and Olise.
Yeah. So I have wagered heavily on Mbappe scoring at least 2 goals in this game.
This is the first time in my life that since the beginning of the tournament, it's one team against the field.
Yeah,
France.
Yeah.
I think France is so much better than the rest that it's. I don't think you play this game a million times and France loses 1.
I mean, they are in a space where all my German friends that I was texting with yesterday go, well, they may have saved my July 4th by losing to Paraguay. There was no belief that Germany had a chance against France, and that's a world you wouldn't have lived in, and I think that shows the quality of this France team. But if Sweden are going to get an upset, there could be one person who's involved. If you've played Football Manager 26, you know there's nothing like watching a player level up on your team, and we're doing the same here with Yassine Ayari. Came out of the gates exploding on this tournament. A young 22-year-old currently with Brighton in the Premier League, and of course getting his chance on the World Cup stage. At 22 years and 251 days old, Ayari became the 3rd youngest Swedish player in history to score a multi-goal game at a World Cup when he scored the brace against Tunisia. And here is one for you. Adidas confirms that according to the data metrics provided by Connected Ball Technology housed within the Adidas Trianda, the official match ball of the World Cup that you can, of course, get at soccer.com, the 2 goals scored by Ayari against Tunisia were traveling at a maximum speed of 120 and 118 kilometers, making them the 2 fastest goals of the tournament so far. So his ball striking ability is not bad. And if you take a look at this game and these two teams, Sweden's chance is going to be to get out in transition, to get either way, whether it's through Gorkarez's feet or Isak over the top. And Ayari's going to be the one who either gets them there or he's the late runner following up like we saw against Tunisia, where when the initial chance dies, he makes the run and he scores.
So make it 6-1.
Yeah. Someone's got to score those goals.
Let me help you. Metric system non-people.
Yeah.
That's
How
like
fast?
70 miles per hour.
Ooh, we flying.
Look at this guy.
55,
Yeah.
70 miles per hour.
Just a quick conversion rate. You talked about Adriano. Yes. Oh, no. Eric talked about Adriano yesterday. And that's what I think of when I think of hard strikes because
Adriano, the Brazilian
yeah,
Adriano.
because he had the hardest shot ever. And Yassine
What a player.
Ayari is in that territory. Brighton is pushing to sign him to a big contract extension. His current deal runs through 2027. You can take a look on that Football Manager graphic about where his transfer fee sat coming into this season. And for Brighton, they obviously have become a bit of a factory in developing players and moving them on. There's a chance now with the deal that tight, though, that Ayari might just become a free agent. And if he does, he would be one of the most sought-after players in the world. I believe Chelsea's already started their combos because it's Chelsea's job to sign all Brighton players for a ton of money and a
young
huge
American
number.
players, too.
So Ayari, one of the bright young players in this tournament. Football Manager's international mode is available now. Download it on Steam or your favorite console, PlayStation, Xbox, and Nintendo Switch. Take advantage of the current sale and save 50% through July 9th. Okay, let's move to our final game of the day and the one that Mr. El Tree in the middle here has been waiting to talk about. Mexico versus Ecuador. Someone wrote the Michele versus David game. I don't know how that's true because you're like both. You're Mexico and Ecuador. You wrote both of them the entire tournament.
You've changed during the World Cup.
From what?
Before the World Cup, you said, I will never, ever root for Mexico. And
Yeah.
you've changed.
There's one thing that I do want.
Your heart.
I
your
want
heart.
England to lose at the Azteca against Mexico
Oh,
and feel the pain.
I think everyone wants that. Oh,
And
they
I-
can lose against Ecuador at Azteca.
That is
the
also
venue
true,
doesn't
and I
change.
also would be okay with that. But Ecuador are getting the full experience. All night, we have seen videos of Mexico fans celebrating, partying, playing drums, and setting off fireworks outside the Ecuador hotel. There has been a bunch of hilarious news reports or different posts of we do not condone the party that has appeared, and then they put the exact address of the hotel.
Yeah.
But this is CONCACAF, baby, and Ecuador now traveling down. They have to get acquainted with the region. They have to get acquainted with the city. And these are two teams that have played a similar style so far at this World Cup. So it's kind of hard to tell what the gap will be between them.
Yeah, I think the altitude is not going to be a factor. If it's a factor, I think it will benefit Mexico because the players have been there for a month, training 2 weeks before the World Cup, and now the World Cup is like week 3. They haven't moved from Mexico City. Well, they went to Guadalajara for the second game, but it was a 24-hour trip. And you were having this. You guys were talking about this. How the other way to combat altitude, it's to get as close as you can to the game. Ecuador got yesterday to Mexico after a long trip. They got delayed. They quote-unquote delayed. Who would have thought?
Yeah, welcome.
My advice is don't eat or drink anything that you didn't bring.
You'll be able to locate it inside your body about 60 minutes into the game.
Don't drink anything that you didn't bring. Bottle up. So the interesting thing here for Mexico, it's Aguirre's choices, right? So talking with my people over there and the people that cover the team, they're still expecting 4 in the back. I thought they now with with Edson and Montes and Johan Vasquez, they will potentially play a 3 center back, but they're supposedly stick with the 4 in the back with Montes and Johan. So the big question mark for Aguirre is what to do with Edson. One is leaving him on the bench, which I think I'll be hard pressed to see that, to leave Edson Alvarez on a game like this on the bench. So one of the choices that it's gaining momentum is playing with a double pivot with Edson and Lira on midfield and playing Brian Gutierrez or Gilberto Mora as a 10.
Yeah.
And the 3 up top stay the same: Alvarado, Quiñones, and Raúl. That's not going to change.
Yeah.
So that's the big question mark.
Do we think Israel Reyes starts at right back again?
Yes, and that's the other one.
Yeah.
Israel, because you want he's a natural center back,
Yeah.
so he's more defensively,
Yeah.
and having Alvarado on the field and potentially playing with a double pivot with Edson and Lira, you need a little bit of more coverage, especially if Ecuador is going to put on the field Nilson Angulo on the left side, who I think putting him as a starter made the difference against Germany on their last game that they won to advance. But I'm torn. I'm picking with my heart, honestly, with Mexico, because you know how much I love Ecuador. We've talked about Ecuador so much on this show. And I think we all agree this is going to be a 1-0
it's going to be tight.
game. Difficult to score. The one who scores, nothing's going to change. And I mean, honestly, I'm picking Mexico. I'm going to close my point. I think Ecuador is the best team, but I think Mexico, with 80,000 people at Azteca, with the altitude and emotionally, they're going to manage the game better. So I think they're going to get the result.
The problem for Ecuador, what we saw in the group stage, is they don't really have a ton of ways to win games.
Yeah.
And therefore, Mexico will be in this game. And you can't take the crowd out of it because you don't dominate in ways. And it really will fall to the half chance or the set piece.
Probably. And if that's the case, I do like Ecuador's chances because I think their talent, especially in, like up the spine, is so just like flagrantly better than what Mexico have. That said, I think Mexico have better talent in the attack, and they are much better at both fullback slots, in my opinion, in terms of getting meaningful ball progression and even attacking contribution. I mean, we saw it in against the Czechs, though. Take that for what it's worth. But to the point of it being 1-0 off a set piece or a piece of magic, that is the argument for the double pivot with Gilberto Mora.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, I love Brian Gutierrez. He's a really good player. Gilberto Mora has something a little bit special in him that very few do. And he's 17 years old, and it's a big moment, but he's been a big player so far. The other, like, I just don't see how they create those chances that they'll need otherwise. Like, that's the only way I see a win for Mexico in any kind of like regulation or before penalties.
Yeah, I mean, Fidalgo has been a big part of ball progression when he's been in there. It sounds like he won't be in there because they want to be a little bit safer, which is also why Israel Reyes starts at right back. He slides in, he becomes a right center back. But all of that is safe. Jorge Sanchez would be the option where he goes forward, he attacks. I've talked about converting Chino Huerta in there. Roberto Alvarado's basically played as a right wing back.
Yeah.
All of that is defensive. Like, everything about the decisions Javier Aguirre has made in this tournament have been safe and defensive. And to his credit, he's got every advantage. He's got the altitude. He's got the lack of travel. He's got the home fans. He's got however that affects referees. Like, all of those things. And I think Aguirre's point is, if I minimize the amount of things that happen in the game, enough will break our way. And this is a game where that argument won't go away because of the way Ecuador is. The one piece for Ecuador that I would like to see is, I think you mentioned Angulo on the starting lineup. I think Kevin Rodriguez coming off the bench was a difference maker for Ecuador. You could play to him. He dominated space in the middle. And there were even moments where his presence pulled a little attention that and Angulo could use on his 1v1 dribbles, that Mojica that guys could use. Pervis Estupian, when he came on, they could use that attention. Enter Valencia, even if he does that, I'd rather have him off that.
Yeah.
So whether it's Plata or him, I'd rather have Kevin Rodriguez battling and knocking down balls to those two guys facing goal. And I do think that's part of the problem is Valencia is supposed to be that guy for this team. And then there's no one there to finish it off, and he doesn't really get a lot of looks. And Plata obviously scores the goal against Germany late on the set piece. He has not looked super dangerous in the run of play otherwise. So that would be my one change that I would make. I don't know that that's something that's actually going to happen because if it's talking about dropping Valencia, he's the captain of the team.
Yeah, I think he's going to start. I just don't. I don't think that Ecuador has. They don't have enough to drop him, right? Yeah. He's been such an inspirational part of this team coming to the forefront over the past 15 years, and he has earned, I think, the right to start in this game, even if it's not the right choice. But what we did see is they are willing to sub him out if the game is not going the way they want, and that is fine.
Yeah.
That I think that gives Ecuador a little bit of juice, and given between that and, like I said, the spine, it feels to me like they are the favorites in this team, or in this game, which I did not expect when we saw the bracket laid out. I thought Mexico would have rounded into something more compelling by this point in the tournament.
I think Mexico wins this game. I think it's 50-50 with the nature of it.
Yeah.
And I think all the things I listed of the off-field stuff are the 1%.
Oh, the crowd being in Mexico's favor? Are you sure?
I do wonder if we've reached the point where you're in a knockout game of the World Cup that, listen, people in a stadium, I don't know how much ball knowledge there is all
They
the time.
start booing at halftime.
I think people would understand enough the game states that's going to happen because you've seen Ecuador for 3 games at the World Cup and for hopefully 20 plus games in qualifying. The understanding of this is what we're in for, and it's to our advantage to cheer. Now, that's literally never happened before, so I'm inventing a world that it could be in. But that's what I think will happen.
Your boy,
What?
it's on the line today, Quiñones. I think
Boy, he stole him from
that's
me.
your boy.
I know.
You've been hyping him up
For
so
2
much.
years.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I think where Mexico wins this game, it's Quiñones and Alvarado, and this is where I believe it's smart from Aguirre to put Edson on midfield with Lira to get that cover. Alvarado and Quiñones against Hincapié and Alan Franco, who are not fullbacks.
Right.
If they can break that line,
Yeah.
I think that's where Mexico wins the game because Raúl Jiménez in the box, he's gonna win everything.
I mean, it's first Pacho, though, which is a clash of the Titans in that central area.
And they know each other
yeah.
from the from
You
No.
think it was Santi Jimenez for a second?
No. I was thinking Premier with
Yeah.
no. I was thinking with Hincapié.
Yeah.
No, Pacho. Pacho's at PSG.
This is
Who's gonna sign Diamante? Oh,
Yeah.
great, beautiful.
This is
They should bring the Champions League trophy, the next one, with the contract. It's like, here you go.
Right?
You already win it, brother.
this is going to be a huge game for Mexico. This is their big chance to continue to accelerate the popularity of the sport, which is pretty high in the country, but also the popularity of this team globally. And I think for Mexico, the conversation about Japan,
it's the
conversation about the U.S.,
about Portugal,
and
right?
they believe that they are scratching that. They've not played the soccer to do that over
Listen.
the last 10 years, 8 years. And they haven't played that soccer this time, but this is where international tournaments are funny. If they get the results, they want a shot at England or DR Congo in the next round. If they get to a quarterfinal, nothing else matters.
But it's Ecuador is better than Bosnia, but both teams, for the U.S., for Mexico, not winning this game, it's an epic failure.
Yep.
Epic. Especially Mexico at the Azteca with 80,000 people and having the opportunity to stay there
Yeah.
and play England.
Man, when DR Congo beats England, it's going to be wild for us. We've done our brackets. We went through them yesterday with Eric. We had Michele, we had Jordan, we had Suze, fill them out separately. We're going to post them all up on social. This show is fully Colombia-pilled, so if Colombia falters, I think we might just shut the whole thing down and close it with, I'm sure Derek will appreciate about an hour and 47 minutes into this show that he's ready to bounce and get out of here. All right. Thank you to all of you for being here. Thank you to 2 of you. Reminder, we will have live show tomorrow, 9:30 a.m. Eastern time. We will talk, of course, U.S. soccer and everything else around the USA-Bosnia game. We will be live on this set post-game to talk about what happened, whatever it may be. And then, of course, we'll be back on Friday. But tomorrow, we will recap these games. Yesterday, one of the great days in World Cup history, one of the great days in sports history. We might be on tap for another one. So thank you to Derek and Connor for being here. Big shouts to Todd for joining us. Thank you to Theo, as always. And we'll talk to you again very, very soon.